think it's just coming through. Before we start, can I just remind everyone that this session is being recorded, so if you do not want to appear on the recording, please put your camera off now, and I shall hand over to Abeer.
Thank you very much, everyone. My name is Abeer Pharaon. I am one of the academics working at Manchester Metropolitan University. I'm program lead for the Masters in Strategic Leadership in the Business School, and I'm going to be talking to you today about embedding the SDGs in education using the impactful 5 methods. And this is basically part of the PRIME network that our business school has signed off as part of the UN initiatives to teach the SDGs. So the content of the session, I'm going to be talking about the impactful 5 method. I'm going to run a mini workshop on making learning meaningful, which are the 5 impactful 5 methods. Foster joy and well-being, developing supportive social interaction, facilitating active engagement, and finally design for iteration. And then I'm going to give you examples of how I use Lego Series Play to deliver these sessions at the university. So before we start, I'm just going to give a bit of a brief introduction of what do we mean by PRIME. So PRIME is the Principles for Responsible Management Education. They began the work on the impactful 5 methods in January 2022 by a generous funding from the Lego Foundation in order to come up with pedagogical characteristics to enhance student skills and develop their holistic and thoughtful and playful manner. The impactful 5 method is designed around these 5 methods to teach the business education and particularly the SDGs in a new way, if you like. And they are based around these 5 methods, which we will be using now in our workshop. The I5 booklet is available on this link. So I'm going to click on the link, and also if you wish, I can post it as well in the chat. You will need the playbook when we are delivering the actual workshop. So if I add that to the chat, just give me 1 second. So if I ask you please to all click on the playbook and have it open as well as the Padlet. So we will need both open. So if I ask you please to open the I5 playbook. Once you open the I5 playbook, as you can see, it's the initiative by the UN. Business schools around the world are signatories of the PRIME initiative in order to teach the principles of responsible management to our students in the business schools. And in this wonderful playbook, each of the I5 methods are discussed, particularly what we call signatures. So each one of the 5 methods is attached with 4 signatures to explain what do we actually mean by that method. And I'm just going to show you the main kind of outline of all of them, just to give you an example, this one. So, for example, meaningful is one of the methods. What do we mean by making learning meaningful? We mean by that these 4 signatures, we call them signatures. So having role modeling, personalizing, surfacing, and dignifying. In each of the, on the Padlet link, you will have kind of an overall meaning of what do we mean by each one of these 4 signatures. So I'm going to ask you to come up with ideas of how can I be a role model in terms of teaching the SDGs to my students. And that's what the workshop is about. And then joy, fostering joy and well-being. delighting, sensing, contemplating, and rippling. Again, each one of these signatures are explained in the Padlet and also in this booklet. And then you have social, developing supportive social interaction, communifying, braving, bridging, and teaming. Active, facilitating active engagement, so animating, linking, tagging, and authenticating. And finally, iteration, design for iteration, compassing, revisiting, prototyping, and exploring. I'm not expecting you to have a full idea about what each one of them means. And that's the idea of why we have the booklet open plus the Padlet open. So if I return back to my slides. And it's not allowing me to, yeah, here we go. So so in terms of the slides, I have the workshop and I have also the sustainable development goals. So what I would like you to do is to select, I'm going to put you in pairs, and each pair, so I don't know, definitely you have this somewhere else, but if you don't, you can screenshot this. I'm going to ask you to select one of the 17 SDGs and base your activity around them, around that particular SDG. So you're going to select one of the SDGs, and then we're going to go through the Padlet activities in order for you to develop ideas on each of the signatures of the 5 methods. So depending on how many people I have, let me just quickly finish off before the workshop to tell you how I've done it with my colleagues at the university. So the Lego series play, as you are aware, I'm not sure if you are aware of the Lego series play or not, but we use it for creative thinking. So I used the method to develop new ideas. So instead of us now talking together about how can I become a role model in teaching this particular SDG, how can I be use animation, how can I do? So I delivered these Lego series play sessions in order to create new ideas of how we can teach the I5 methods. That's how I've done it. And I've got these YouTube videos which I can show you in terms of the testimonials and how they have been used. The Lego series play is a creative tool which uses the hands, and we call it hands knowledge. So the hands will build the models after we have a session of we call it skills development exercises where we connect the hands with the subconscious. So whatever you come up with in terms of the actual models, these are related to what you have in terms of your feelings. And also, when you are in the playful mode, we kind of invite the right side of the brain instead of the usual left side of the brain, which we use on a daily basis in our daily lives. And the left side of the brain is linked with logic, problem solving, maths and all of that, while the right side of the brain is linked with creativity, emotions, feelings, imagination, and all of that. So once you are kind of relaxed and into the playful mode, we give you this serious part of the questions, and you build that once your hands are connected with the subconscious, and your hands start to build while they are connected. And then while you are giving the storytelling of your models, that creates even more meanings to whatever it is that you have built. So in a way, we have reversed the thinking process. Instead of you thinking in the brain and then doing something with your hands, we let you do it with your hands, and then your brain will be interpreting that. So I use that Lego series play tool, which I have been certified in since I think 2013, and I use it in all sorts of ways. One of them is in higher education. And we build these models with these creative ideas that you will come up with in order for you to teach the SDGs using the 20 signatures of the 5 method. So that's how I've done it. So now I'm happy for you to connect with me on LinkedIn. I can post my link in the chat if you wish to connect with me later on. So let's move on now to the Padlet, and if I can invite you please to open Padlet, and we're going to start with an example, and then let me just check how many people we have.
I've got some breakout rooms created, Abeer. We have 8 people, so that would be 4 rooms if you want pairs.
Okay, so we will have 4 rooms, and then we will have, so there are 5 signatures. So we're going to leave one, maybe to the end, maybe we can have a bit of discussion around that. Are we okay with time? I'm sorry that I kind of overtook the time, but hopefully it will be enough. So if I ask you please to open your Padlet, and then we're gonna divide into the rooms. So are you gonna help me with allocating the rooms? Or am I gonna do it myself?
Yeah, I'm good to go. I can do it. I allocate them anytime you want.
So before everyone goes, what I'm gonna do, so we have 4 groups. So if I say group 1, whatever that group is, if you can go to making learning meaningful. So this is the first of the I5 methods, and you have each one of the 4 signatures. So role modeling, what does that mean? It means demonstrating responsible leadership competencies in observable ways that students can understand and possibly emulate. So what I would like you to do is to discuss what does that mean. You should have selected one of the SDGs, and then in here you are going to add your comment on ideas of how you will adopt this particular signature of this particular I5 method into teaching that particular SDG. So for example, if I'm going to say personalizing, attuning to current students' backgrounds, interests, and needs, and giving them more agency to design their learning. So how can I use personalizing, okay, into teaching, let's say, SDG, for example, I don't know, life under sea, for example, okay? How can I do that? What ideas do you have in order to teach that particular SDG? So I suggest you select one of the SDGs that is kind of maybe related to your interest and whatever you have been teaching before, or it's just related maybe to your maybe speciality, if you like, whatever. So you're going to use the space into the comments into creating more ideas for that. Now group 2 are going to do exactly the same, but for fostering joy and well-being. Group 3, you're going to do developing supportive social interaction. And group 4, you're going to do facilitating active engagement. Group 5, we don't have group 5, but when we come back together, we can listen to your comments and what you have added in the Padlet, and then we can maybe create something together for the 5th one. Is that okay? Is that a good plan for you?
That sounds good. How long will people have to do this activity?
Okay. So it depends on how long we have. If you guide me through, I reckon maybe 10 minutes would probably be okay, unless you'd like to give them more time.
Well, we go with 10. That sounds good.
Let's go with 10, and then I will be nipping in and out of the rooms, and then hopefully that will support you and answer any questions you might have. Is that all right?
That sounds great. Okay,
so maybe you tell them which group they are. So group 1, 2, 3, 4. You tell them.
Yeah, so room 1 is Kirsten and Paul. Room 2 is Florence and Salma. Room 3 is Elisabetta and Saida. And room 4 is Anne Catherine and Marjon.
Wonderful.
And I shall send you to your rooms now.
Thank you.
So I gave them a little 60-second warning, so they should all be back in about 30 seconds now.
Wonderful. So maybe if I share my screen so we know what's going on in terms of the And you will be sending the recording to all of us, isn't it?
Yes, we'll edit them after the festival, just chop off the ends, and then we'll send them to everyone, yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
As soon as we get a chance, we'll do them. Here they come.
Are they all back? Oh, wonderful. Okay, everyone, thank you very much for joining. It's fantastic to have you back. So I'm just gonna open the Padlet and see what we can do in terms of your answers. So as I mentioned before, this is more or less a flavor of the real stuff, because obviously we will need more time. So if I start with group 1, do you want to take us through your comments on role modeling, please? What does it mean? Oh, first of all, what SDG have you selected?
SDG 4,
4.
education.
Okay. Do you want to take us through your comments on what ideas you came up with?
We kind of did it together, obviously. So, yeah, I mean, role modeling in terms of promoting accessibility. Not everybody has access to the internet, perhaps. So we would need to look at alternative ways. And my last comment actually touches on something you mentioned, Abeer, which is the Lego play.
Yeah, okay.
So, in fact, Kirsten mentioned something even more extreme than that, in that, say, in some third world countries, they may not even have the option to access the internet. So, if not Lego, then whatever resources perhaps are accessible to our learners, we should consider using those too, and that in that way being responsible. That
That's
was
amazing.
yeah.
I also said that if you're role modeling and you're promoting global education or education for all, if you have a social media presence, then you can use that carefully to promote the kind of education initiatives that reach underserved communities and promote those on your social media and in your classroom.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. And that's exactly the purpose of this session, is to come up with these ideas. I only mentioned Lego because I just used it as a tool, but obviously brainstorming together is also another tool, isn't it? So what you've mentioned is incredible, because it's taking us outside of the classroom and thinking about these other communities that might not have, you know, the fancy stuff that we have in this country, which is supporting our diversity, our decolonizing the curriculum, and all of that. That's incredible. I think that's amazing. Thank you very much for that. So I'm gonna stay with you and just maybe touch upon the surfacing. What do you take on this one?
So I said that you should be prepared to examine your own unconscious biases and perhaps guide your learners how they can look at their own, encourage them to step back, to examine the issues faced by others and share their own educational experiences. Because if you're in a university, you may have people who have had very different educational backgrounds to yourself. So understanding the problems that they may have faced can help you perhaps understand the scale of the problem of SDG 4. And digital learning can sometimes be taken for granted as we can all follow lifelong learning by using online learning and digital learning, but there are communities, for instance, in Africa, in places where internet connection is very slow. So I'm a learning technologist, a learning designer. If I am building a MOOC, I need to think about how I can make it easier for those people to access the resources and use the resources by providing alternatives to videos and stuff like that.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. Wonderful. I believe you probably have not reached the other two, which is okay. I'm going to move now to the second group. So do you want to join us in telling us what do you mean by foster joy and well-being for your chosen SDG? And if you can explain to us what ideas do you have to teach that particular SDG, please?
We chose goal 4 education as well. And for delighting, I think it was all about trying to find different approaches, different technologies. I mean, because I'm an academic developer, so I work with lecturers, where Salma is working with computing students, but different ways of sort of destabilizing or at least challenging preconceptions. And that's where we came up with all these lists of different things, like puzzles or using, that was for me, from different technologies, art-based methods. So the delight doesn't always delight people to use an art-based method, but certainly gets them to think, which is really the main thing.
Wonderful. That's amazing. That's really lovely. Thank you very much. And contemplating, what does that mean to you?
I can take that one.
Mm.
So we spoke about the importance of students thinking, or people in general thinking about the experience they're going through, and particularly education, because that was the goal. Some ideas would be asking the students to write a reflective section as part of the assessment reports they write. So it's not necessarily graded, but it's part of giving us informal feedback through formal assessment. And also it allows the students to tell us how they felt about the education experience, what challenges they face, and all of these things. I think Florence mentioned something about pairing students and giving them objects, physical objects that may reflect or link to the personal experience they had, or reflect something they think about, or an idea or a belief. I don't know what else we talked about. There's drawing as well, yeah. No, go on, Florence.
I think that's all for contemplating, really.
So you've got there as well, making the curriculum more internationalization of the curriculum.
Yeah.
So you would like to use these artifacts in order for the students to be able to express, their inner and spiritual and physical selves in their learning. So that's amazing. Thank you very much for that. So you moved on as well to the fostering, to the sensing. Do you want to take us through that as well?
Well, we mentioned Lego serious play. I mean, for example, issues around greening the curriculum or futurizing the curriculum with Lego. I've asked people to either use Lego or small toy or whatever object they've got at hand, and someone had a little Lego figurine, and she put it under a book to express her feelings about futurizing the curriculum. That was all new to that particular, well, it's new to most people anyway, but she just found that a little bit overwhelming, and it was really funny, but at the same time I wish I hadn't laughed, because I didn't want to make fun of her, but it was just an amusing image the way she'd shot it. So I use what's called photo voice, which is a research techniques where people take photos and provide a narrative. But here I combine photo voice with Lego, so that teaching mostly online, you have to do that so that people can share the images, basically. So that, people feel they like it, even if they don't have Lego or toys, even any object. Look in your handbag or in your satchel or what you've got on your shelves. And, if you give people a brief that's relatively clear, but open enough, and they come up with, all sorts of things to express their thoughts, really.
Just thought of something, I just added it. So that's something I tried myself. So sharing your own experience, so sharing an experience that you went through, and that what kind of emotions, a range of emotions you felt. So one of the things I did, I shared, so I was trying to convince the students to read their feedback, because students don't read their feedback. So I held a session for the students, and I shared with them my experience as a student receiving feedback and how I felt. And the way that the marker gave me the feedback wasn't necessarily informative. It was frustrating, devastating, and gave them examples of positive feedback I received and how I felt. I put emojis to represent that, put some pictures of objects that represent how I felt or something I remembered when I feel like this. I also showed them examples of feedback I got as an educator, so student versus educator. And I think that helps them validate their emotions if they feel something, if they get feedback they don't like, it's not the end of the world. So I think that's something proved useful for me, at least.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for all these wonderful ideas. And I can see that you also did something for rippling. What does that mean to you? What does rippling mean to you?
Perhaps, Selma, you can take that one, the issue of
Oh, yes.
bias.
So enable students to grasp the profound impact of individual. So I think this needs to address the fact that everything now is globalized, international, what's it called? Accessibility, international, I can't remember the word. It's a globalization or something, I can't remember. Anyway, I think the students in all fields, I'll speak about my field, in computer science, programming, game design, they need to start thinking about the different perspectives. We spoke about the way game designers design certain characters, for example, female characters to look in a certain way to elicit certain feelings. So this needs to be addressed or at least looked into. In terms of accessibility as well, in terms of game design and software design, this needs to be looked into because different cultures do use software differently. People with different needs expect different things from software. So in terms of my own teaching, I try to have the students think about this when we ask them to design, for example, an interface, to design a character. So things need to change, particularly, again, we spoke, Florence mentioned the impact of AI nowadays. AI is trained on data, and if the data isn't reflective of the actual population, it's not going to be relatable to everybody.
Yeah, wonderful. That's amazing. I mean, in the short period of time, you managed to complete all these tasks. That's amazing. Thank you very much for sharing your ideas with us. So I'm going to move now to the third group, group 3 or room 3. Are you able to present to us what you came up with?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, we only did it was Saida who's had to leave for another meeting. We only did braving. We were trying to define it. And I think we came up with the sort of definition of being brave, braving, being brave, maybe opening up our thinking or students' thinking in a way that could even go against the grain, even challenging the sort of status quo or the sort of groupthink of their peers. We were also thinking about things like AI. One of Saida's idea was about using escape room and using AI activities, using in an escape room, sort of and experimenting and thinking of what are the limitations and the potential of AI, not necessarily in a negative way. Also something picked up on about the future leaders. I know they're not students, but also being brave of future leaders to think and be flexible in sort of this changing AI world and encouraging that sort of format that would support learning such challenging issues in a place of trust, which would be a university. So if you can't work through these things in a university, then there's no other place really that you can do in a sort of a place of trust, basically, in a safe way, before going out into the big wide world.
That's interesting. So you looked at it from a perspective of offering the students the space for them.
Yes, well, it's quality education.
Yeah. quality education SDG, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in this particular I5 method, developing supportive social interaction, we provide our students with that kind of, as you said, the space to, for example, if we talk about bridging, for example, so it's connecting the students to these different cultures, disciplines, perspectives in ways to broaden their and clarify their understanding, which is linked to diversity, you know, at the universities, making sure that our students appreciate that kind of diversity in themselves. So we needed more ideas of how can we do that for our students. Similarly with teaming, how can we group them? How can we create that sense of teaming within themselves and create that social interaction within themselves in that particular SDG? And again, communifying, which means is that kind of creating that sense of community within themselves in the student community and feeling that trustworthiness amongst themselves. So that's a very, like in a nutshell, what do we mean by developing supportive interaction? And I'm going to move now to group 4. If you would like to take us through your ideas on how do we actively engage the students? Do you want to take us through the first signature animating?
Yeah, and surprisingly, we've got the same SDG, the quality of education, because that's the obvious one. We actually we are, the time was way too short, but we were from 2 different educational systems, so from Dutch and the UK background, and also 2 different kind of angles of working with students or with postgrad students, preparing them for teaching. And I work with mainly undergrads, but also postgrads, and mainly on one-to-one, whereas Marjan was working with a lot in a group work setting, as I understood. So in terms of, is animating the first one?
Animating, yeah, it's on the screen, animating, yeah.
So we looked at opportunities to role play in workshops. So that's was a teaching setting. I don't know if Marjan wants to say something. And for me, in the one-to-one settings, I wanted to challenge people to encourage them to think on paper. So I'm actually using it in a way of encouraging them to stop and think and look at their briefs and use pen and paper to think around using maybe diagrams or graphic organizers to settle their thoughts before they acting out something out.
That's amazing. I mean, the other day I was teaching and I asked my students to write something and nobody had a pen. Maybe just 1 or 2 of them had a pen and paper. So they all
that
come
sounds
with
familiar.
headphones or the laptops, and the pen and paper just disappeared from our classrooms, isn't it? And animating, as you rightly said, you know, getting them down to using something physical for them to be able to use in their spaces and their surroundings. And pen and paper is the basic thing.
Yeah.
Even books, we're not anymore, you know, borrowing books from the library because everybody has got all these books online. So this particular signature, you know, requests us as educators to bring our students back down to the old ages. I'm going to call them old ages, but you know, using a pen and paper. So it's a crucial one. Thank you very much for sharing that. And then you have teching.
And the teching obviously brought us to the use of AI. Marjan, do you want to take this and talk about the simulations that you're using?
Yes, like it was really funny because you started out with like describing why you think AI might not be like very
anti-tech.
Yes, and then you asked like, do you agree with this? And then I said no, just to like make this really nice contrast. But I think like in our department we have a really nice innovation that uses simulations to like virtual reality simulations of the classroom to help our students to become more proficient in classroom management skills. And this is like one way of teching, which is like very nice, I think. So Yes.
Yeah, whereas I'm a learning developer and I work with students on their assessments or kind of giving them strategies to talk how they approach things, why they approach things that way, and how they want to achieve their goals. So, and I observe students just relying on this boop AI, little helper that pops up. So I'm really worried about, so where's the gap? Where can they develop their critical thinking, before they actually immediately accept what the AI suggests? And, here's a summary, here's a structure, go with this. So that brings me back to how do they read, how do they actually, read primary resources? The movement is so fast, kind of how they change and
Absolutely.
adapt the technology. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
the checking has got advantages and disadvantages.
So this particular signature invites us as educators to use effective and healthy ways. I mean, AI, we cannot hide from it. We cannot put our heads in the sand and just imagine the world does not have it. No, it does have it. And the students will use it. And the funny, problem, I'm going to call it, is that you ask them to solve a problem or maybe respond to a question, and then all of them just keying it into Copilot or ChatGPT, and then whatever comes out, they will just present it as an answer, as if it is like an honored kind of answer, without them thinking, as you mentioned, in their critical thinking. And sometimes, honestly, they even do not understand what they are telling us about the answer. They don't even recognize what is it that they are responding with, and you just feel, where are we heading in their learning? So they will graduate with these assignments that are composed with the AI, and it's just a nightmare of producing and graduating students without that ability to using that effective and healthy ways of it.
And designing assessments that actually keep up with that speed. Yeah.
Absolutely. So linking, what do you mean by that? What does it mean to you?
Okay.
Well, I think
go ahead.
No, like for our program, so the teacher education department already has like natural partnership with schools where our students do their practice. So that's a very nice example, I think, of linking between theory and practice.
Yeah, so we come back to the meaningfulness of their work. So linking the theory with the practical, with their placements or with their professional, groups that for future careers, really.
For other groups, there obviously, please, add your comments. It does not have to be that group. We're just presenting here. So you mentioned partnerships, practical adaptations, definitely case studies. You can use also more than one signature together. So case study would fit here, and also would fit with the role modeling, because having with the bridging, I should say, and having that bridge and connection between different parts of the world with our diversity and stuff. So that also
what comes to mind here as well. I work in a creative faculty, so I'm faculty based, and the linking is with the community. So I'm at the University of Portsmouth, so the outreach to the community, so that we're sharing obviously resources with them, we're having shows, we're inviting them in, we're linking with community groups. That is a very strong, as a civic university, that's a very strong mission, part of our mission. Yeah.
And learning happens when they are dealing with community, that's part of the learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's move on to authenticating, exposing students to real world issues and engaging them in experiences that are authentic to their current and future realities. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, I think we did not really discuss this, but we wrote this down during
time. What just went? Yeah.
Yes.
Authenticate. That's the connection between theory and practice again. So to actually, engage them in experiences.
Okay.
authentic experiences. I mean, in your context, Mayan, the teaching context, you know, they need to, well, one day they need to go from simulation to the real world, don't they? So to authenticate. So that is probably still in the realm of the during their course. So they're still feeling safe and being observed and being supported and scaffolded doing that before they go out and in the real world.
Absolutely. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much for that. I can see that someone has commented on the design for iteration.
I already moved into the red part. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Do you want to present that? Was it you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. What do you mean here?
What do I
Compassing?
mean? Let's see. Compassing. I like that in terms of very small. Testing summative. Okay. So yeah, getting away from I think summative assessment always puts a lot of pressure on students, or you know, their struggle to see the meaning of it, or just to go to exams. I mean, in the creative industries, we I think we've gone completely away from exams. So a lot of this is formative, which makes more sense to them as well. And as an academic skills tutor, I often have this discussion with them. So what do you think? Why is this assessment here? What have you done before? How does it link together? What do you actually learn in that? What do you have to show? How do you have to show your skills development in that module? So so going away from summative as for a learning journey. Yeah. And so a lot of students say like, oh, I want a first. Of course I want a first, you know, because you know I need an A plus to show in my certificate. But the discussion to have what do you actually get from this experience? Like, what does the experience of writing a final year project or a dissertation teach you? What do you learn from that? And that you can present in a job interview as well, whether you got a first or a second. Yeah. So their learning journey, their meaning making, their sense making, their growing, you know, in that.
So yeah, it's moving from those tests as such to the comprehensive learning journey for the students from day one to the graduation. So how can we make that compassing, as in like a compass, you know, moving them to the direction of the learning journey rather than just ticking, I finished that test, I finished that exam or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So revisiting, what does that mean to you? I'm just inviting those who commented. What does that mean to you, revisiting? Who commented? So going back to artifacts of students thinking about the topic over time to reveal the progression of their understanding throughout a learning experience. It's more a reflection kind of thing. So I can see here, reflecting is a life skill. It is providing maps that link the various. Who would like to comment on that one? Anyone who wrote that comment?
That was mine, yeah, as well.
Wow!
I got carried away. But now I can hardly read it. Yeah, as I said, so reflecting is a life skill. So because that takes us from the students thinking from the topic to reveal the progression, making sense of their progression again, you know, in a reflective way, in a learning cycle. Yeah, I think that's what I meant here.
So I've got someone else, embedding puzzles. Would you like to comment on that one?
Yes, that was me. So to allow the students to get an idea of how far they've come and what's left, and you know, look back at what they've done so far, we can embed smaller, let's say puzzle, but smaller problems that relate to previous topics, such that they have to either go back to look at the topic or maybe think about connecting the current week to the previous weeks. Some reflection, not assignments, some reflection tasks for them, again, to look at how far they progressed, comparing themselves or the knowledge they had from week 1 to week, for example, 5 or 10. Again, it's not assessed because students don't tend to like it if you want to ask them, how are you feeling about this, and then mark it. So I think, yes, embedding tiny bits and pieces across the entire span of the module, and not just in practice, not just in lectures, not just online, just a combination of all of these. Yeah.
Totally agree. That's really a great idea. Thank you very much for that. And finally, on this point, start out with creating a concept map. Anyone?
Yeah, the concept map, it's just because sometimes oh, sorry, that wasn't my, I was thinking concept map, but Marjan, take it because
No, it would be nice to also hear your ideas about this, but like I always ask my students to like write a concept map based on what they already know at the beginning of a course, and then at the end have them make the same concept map and see how the concept map has like evolved, or maybe even have the students like revisit the concept map every once in a week or something during the course. And
So do you mean like concept map as in like mapping the learning throughout the course? Is that what you mean?
No, I actually do mean like the, for example, one of my students was looking into research into humor in education. So, and then like she wrote down everything she knew about this at the beginning of her internship, and then at the end as well.
Ah, okay. It's like more of, okay, learning journey. Okay, I understand what you're trying to say. Okay, thank you very much for that. And I have another point before, during, and after structure is that.
I was thinking about, lecturers providing maps or helping students to build maps about the course, because sometimes students find it really difficult to get a sense of what they're going to learn. I mean, obviously they start from a position of not knowing everything, but just the interconnection between various topics and why it's important. I was thinking in some of the sciences where the first year is really about basic concepts studying at university, and they don't actually do any kind of research, and there's a good reason for that. I can understand that, but you could say to students, well, you may not do anything particularly creative in the lab, but the concepts we're covering, the I don't know, the processes or the readings, what's foundational, and helping students be patient and create connections. I think sometimes in the mind of the course team it's very clear, but for the students that is not.
Wonderful. That's amazing structure and amazing discussion, to be honest. And I'm just going to finish off with, I've got prototyping. Anyone would like to comment on this one briefly? Embedding cycles of ideation, development, drafting, feedback, and revision into assignments and learning experiences. I mean, it's all connected, isn't it? It's just making that extra angle of something. So prototyping is making sure that you have got that ideation, development of the feedback. So it's like you're going into that cycle of making sure that the assignments and the learning experience is embedded into whatever you're doing in terms of the activities. Brave Peacock, is that you?
That's me. So it's just anything that gets students to engage with the knowledge in a restricted fashion. So an annotated bibliography or an essay outline, or the Pechakucha presentation. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Is the idea you've got 20 slides and 20 seconds on each slide. So you've got to present your topic in 6 minutes 40, which seems like very little. But to construct one of these is actually quite challenging from the point of view of knowledge, as well from the point of view of using PowerPoint. But so just small practices, mini practice sessions, really, that can be really helpful for students to consolidate their knowledge at a particular point, whether they're formal formative sessions or informal, activities within I don't know, seminar, workshop, or whatever.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much for that. Let's finish off with exploring. So again, brave peacock and hopeful Hitchcock. Who's the hopeful Hitchcock? Yeah, okay, Salma, go on.
It's just all these open, forms of learning. I mean, students are a little bit reluctant, but it's actually authentic. It's authentic in terms of what they might be doing in the future. So it's engaging with learning, but also engaging in the kind of skills that employers might want them to use. Just looking at an issue, deciding, what facets, what the issue is, what the problem is, and coming up with ways of working with others to come up with ideas, solutions, or whatever. So all these types of inquiry-based learning as an umbrella thing, but there's all sorts of different names that these things can have.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Okay, Salma.
Yes, so I wrote game jams and hackathons. So we do a lot of that in our school. So the students are given maybe like 2 days to create a complete game or a complete software product, and they have the options to do everything they want, make up the teams from the registered people, decide what tools they're going to use, what game they're going to do. And of course, not all of them follow through because some of the decisions they make are not necessarily the correct ones. They've got mentors to help them. So I think it's a nice way of preparing the students to what's going to happen in the world of work when they graduate. It allows them to explore things, ask questions, take advice if they want. So maybe that's an example.
Thank you very much. So I guess this is more than a taster now. So we kind of exceeded that it's a taster session. But at the end, I would like to invite you to read the Impactful 5 playbook. And you've got my slides there, and you've got my contact details as well. And I posted my LinkedIn page. I invite you to read that and also to use these wonderful ideas. And please add more. The Padlet is going to be open for you to keep adding if you wish, and return back to it for ideas. And I hope that you have enjoyed my session. And I would like to thank you for staying, like it's half an hour after 5 o'clock. So thank you very much for your patience and for your time. And I wish that we can collaborate and work together at future sessions as well. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you very much, Abeer. So I think that's testimony to how interesting people found your session, that they were willing to stay for an extra half hour. So it was great to see so much.
And I'm sorry again, apologies for it has been like an emergency that I had to be late. So apologies for that.
But it's great that we got to run the session in the end. So I have just popped in the chat the link to the feedback form. It's called 2025 Global Festival of Active Learning, Celebrating Learning and Participation. So if you would like to leave some feedback for Abeer, that would be great. Recordings will be out as soon as we get them edited. And I would like to ask you all to join me in thanking Abeer for such an interesting session today.
Oh, bless you. Thank you very much for that. And hopefully we can meet in the future, in future sessions. So yeah, everyone, I really appreciate your time and appreciate your collaboration. And hopefully we will be able to meet soon.
Great. So a reminder, tomorrow is the last day of the festival. We have sessions morning, lunchtime and late afternoon. So hope to see you at some of them. Thanks for now. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.